When you talk about a company like ours, it is very important to realize if you're a lifestyle type of company like we are, sometimes images are better than words. So I thought we would start with a short movie just showing a little bit who we are as a company. So this is what we do. We make it easier for people all over the world. We sell in 140 countries to live those active lives. It might be that mountain, that might be the big thing to go skiing in, or it could be just taking a leisurely jog in the park with your kids. Today, we're going to talk about the following things. I will take the first part talking about our path forward and also a bit why we are launching our new financial targets. Then I'm going to talk more about the Thule brand and what it stands for today and the journey we've had in recent years, and more importantly as investors, the journey we intend to continue to bring with the Thule brand. I'm going to talk about what we do about sustainability, which is a crucial thing in today's world and which we take very seriously. Then we'll have a short break, and after the break, we'll have a number of presenters coming up on stage talking about the 4 new product categories that we will be actually following the company going forward in. So we'll talk about sport and cargo carriers, what is the classical most people recognize Thule as, the new category of packs, bags and luggage, active with kids and RV products. And then Lennart will wrap up with some financials, and then we'll open up for Q&A. So, our path forward. Yes, it's a path. If you want to go forward, you need to know where you're coming from first. So I'm going to do one slide on history and just high level remind you that we've been around for 75 years. We intend to be around for at least 75 more. And as a company, we've been global for more than 50 years. So early on, this company realized to have any chance to be a serious contender, it could not stay in Sweden. So already in the 80s and 90s, it was all over the world. And that is, of course, one of the strengths we have today when we add new products and new things that we already have a global footprint. And as we grew, sometimes things happen, and during a period in the mid-2000s, we grew a lot via acquisitions, acquiring companies which were related to the car industry. Some of those were not the core of what we were good at, so when the financial crisis hit and some of the underperforming parts were there, I got the fantastic opportunity to become the CEO of this company. And I have said that a number of times to several of you when I met. I personally think I have the most fun job in Sweden. I mean, it's a great company to be a CEO over. And what we did then as a company and as a management, and the people you see here presenting have all been part of that journey, is we've really focused on what we are great at, which is designing fantastic products for consumers. And that journey then led us to a stock listing. It has led us to now, after 2 divestments, after the stock listing and several divestments before the stock listing, and a very big focus on organic growth, that it's time today to talk about the path going forward from 2018 and beyond and our ambitions. But it's also good to remind you that consistency is great. The same great investment case that we traveled around and presented in 2013 is actually still valid. We are in an attractive market. Consumers are active. Health and lifestyle is important for people. So we have a number of favorable megatrends. Not all trends are great for not all product categories, and we'll talk more about that after the break. But generally, the underlying trends are all positive on a macro scale for us. Secondly, and a bit cocky maybe, we think we're a pretty darn good company to take advantage of those good market opportunities out there. We have fantastic capabilities of product innovation. We are among the best to really bring great consumer insight into great products. We do have a fantastic strong Thule brand that I will talk more about. We have, thanks to going global many, many years ago, become very good to have a global go-to-market strategy. We do have a strong position in the value chain without having a clear dependency on a few limited customers. And we have always had and have turned up the dial on a true sustainable business approach. All parts of building for the future. The lifestyle part of this brand was my most difficult communication part when I traveled around and met investors before the stock listing. Because in Sweden I got, but you're a roof box company. And somewhere you're a bike carrier company. And I had to tell them the story that we actually already then were more. But what more importantly has happened over the last 5 years, we've truly become even more lifestyle. This is an image from the big outdoor fair. And here are some of the magazines in the last 6 months that have written articles or have had products from Thule in it. Those are magazines that 5 years ago would not have had images of Thule products or articles about Thule, because we were great in RV magazines and in bike magazine and Automotor and Sport and those magazines in the past. But today we are in Cosmopolitan, we're in Luna, we're in completely different sectors. And it could be anything from a Vanity Fair article from last month where they follow a family that is biking around Europe with their kids. Of course, naturally then with Thule Chariot and Thule Yep Next baby bike seats. And it can be a story about you need to be stylish when you're traveling, and here's a collection from Thule that makes you a stylish business traveler. So we're moving more and more. That also means that in terms of retail presence, this is, as you saw out in the room before, this is from the Malmö store that we have. The way we present ourselves in retail, online or physical, is also much more into a branded consumer goods reality. But most importantly, consumers talk about us already as a lifestyle company. They talk about the brand in connection with the things they love to do. It might be just traveling wildly around the world. It might be running a half marathon, as the guy down on the left, in 1 hour and 11 minutes with his daughter. That's a pretty nifty time to do. And it is all those connections with hundreds of thousands of posts, with Instagram posts, with referencing to a lifestyle. Our Scandinavian sales team just showed me one of those posts. A Swedish famous celebrity, I won't give the name, posted on her Facebook, "I'm having a daughter now. I want to keep fit. Which running stroller should I have?" 112 posts out of 112 answers. Out of 112, 95 mentioned the Thule product. So that gives you a feeling that we are in this being talked about in the right way among the consumers. What is good, though, is it's not only that we're a cool brand, we've actually delivered the financials, because in the end, you have to do that. We came to market saying we want to grow stable growth year over year, every year, with at least 5%. Here you can see that the last years, the 16, for a part of the year, we also had the acquisition of Yep, and I will talk to you about what the true organic growth was, 5.0. And if you would take the rolling 12, which says 6.3, in a true organic, it's 5.6, but we have been beating our growth target. And we actually had to sounds bad, but we did decide to raise our EBIT target after a while on the stock exchange from 15%, as it initially was, to 17%. And those that are quick readers of the press release realize that that's one of the news today, that we're now raising that EBIT target to 20%. So what we will continue to do as a company, it's really the number one mantra in this company is continue to drive profitable organic growth. That's our bread and butter. If you look at us all in this team, what we wake up in the morning is that hunger of continuing every morning, everything we think about driving that profitable organic growth. But we're doing it also to build a platform for future. So what we will be talking more about when we talk about some of the new categories that are relatively small today, we see them as pillar categories when we look at a longer time horizon, 5 to 10 years out. And what we are going to do, while still investing heavy money to really become players in those categories, we are very confident that we will still be strong cash generators and being able to give a really strong shareholder return. And the classical question I've always been getting, why aren't you doing with all the cash you have more M&A? And we've had to admit in some of the meetings, we've been slightly busy divesting companies, and we've been slightly busy doing IPOs and getting ready to be the company we're in. We will now have, and already have, more time to potentially dedicate to the right M&A. We're not going to be an M&A-driven company, but the strategic right M&As, like the small ones we've done very successfully in the Active with Kids field, will be a part of the toolbox also going forward. So what will this deliver? Yeah, financial targets as they were, we have delivered, and these are the true organic sales growth targets, just above that target of 5%. We now, on a rolling 12-month basis, are at 18.1% underlying EBIT, which is above the goal. We have a 2 times leverage, and we have been doing dividends above the 50% in terms of ordinary dividends. And as you all know, we did a large extraordinary dividend this year on top of that. So the new financial targets is to continue every year organic constant currency growth of at least 5%. We are raising our financial goal in terms of profits to at least 20% in the long term. And we're saying that our leverage target will now be between 1.5 to 2.5 times. We will continue with the same ordinary dividend goal. So here we're going to talk about today, how are we going to drive that profitable growth and ensuring that it gets more and more profitable as we drive it, while still building a platform for continued cash generation so we can do those dividends. And the key of building for that growth and creating also a platform in the future is not only to rely on what we've always done, because then we would be limiting ourselves. We needed to do more. And what we've been doing over the last few years, not being able to tell investors too much about it, because several of these projects takes years to develop, but it only gets interesting for investors when we finally start selling it. So we haven't wanted to talk too much about it. But if you look over the last few years, we have truly created a starting platform in what we call Active with Kids, or juvenile products. But we've also created a true platform of growth opportunity in what we've called sport and travel bags. And we will talk more about these categories after the break. But what we've decided to do, we have reported in the way of the business, and we will continue to report in 2 sales regions. But then we've talked about the product categories. And don't you all investors, and I can assure you, Stellan and the other analysts, they hate the other category, right? Oh, what's other? There's so much in other. We know that we got a lot of complaints that other is pretty big, what's in it? And we were not hiding what was in it. We were talking about our RV products, we talked about our juvenile products, we talked about our bags products. But in reality, it was a very small part of our business when we came to the market. It has grown, and it's now time, since we have ambitious growth targets in some of these categories, to actually then share with you and the market going forward. And what we're doing is this. So bags for electronic devices is now combined in with all the other bags we're doing, because there's a lot of similarities in terms of materials, supply base, etc., to what we call packs, bags, and luggage. Everything around those different types of bags. We are breaking out as a separate subset now what we call Active with Kids, and we're breaking out as a separate subset the RV products. And the logic for this is because their realities are different in terms of market trend realities, cyclicalities or not, and also our ambition levels are different. So by being able to present it this way, we think we will give a more clear view on what's going to go on going forward. But more about that will definitely come also in after the break. But to start then is to start where we stand financially on these different sectors. Still, 2/3 of our business, sport and cargo carriers, the old heritage. 15% in packs, bags and luggage, 8% in Active with Kids, and 12% in RV product. There are some regional differences. And the big differences is here how big packs, bags and luggage is in the region Americas due to our underperforming old legacy business of Case Logic. And Fred will talk more about that later on in the packs, bags and luggage part. And the big difference of we have focused our RV business to Europe simply because European consumers are prepared to pay for quality in a way in our niches they are not in the US. That's why we focused on Europe. So that's the difference. Those differences, you've heard me in quarterly reports saying those are the real underlying differences of why we have performed differently in the regions, the exposure to different product categories. So what has happened is, year to date, the first 6 months of this year, we have grown 7% in sport and cargo carriers, 7 in Europe and 6 in Americas. Very similar pattern, as we've said. This is a bread and butter business. We're 50% of the global market. We always grow at this type of pace, and very similar across the world. What we have said all along very clearly is that we are doing better in Europe in the packs, bags and luggage than we are doing in region Americas. And the reason is we are more exposed to the better, newer product categories within packs, bags and luggage in Europe than we've been in Americas. I've then told you about the fantastic growth we've seen year to date in juvenile, mostly thanks to the fantastic launch of the Thule Chariot new generation of multi-sport trailers, which is a type of product mostly used in Europe because you bike to kindergarten, you drop off your kid and you bike to work. In the US, that category is more like a weekend thing. That's why the numbers are bigger in region Europe and rest of the world than Americas, but you see some very nice growth number also in Americas. And then I've told you that it is a hot RV market out there, and Philip will talk more about that. And I've told you that we're doing much better than the market, which is true. So we've grown RV 31% year to date. So those are the realities we start from, and then after the break we'll talk much more about these. But let's give you a headline already so you're perking up the ears when my colleagues are presenting the categories after the break. So, what will happen? Yes, pretty boring you might think, but it is stable growth. In sport and cargo carriers, 2/3 of our business, let's be realistic, we've said this all along, we are the market driver. The whole growth of the market is driven up by us pumping out products, by us growing in emerging markets, by us pushing the envelope. We are the ones driving the market. It is not going to change. We will continue to be our number one. We will continue to be the driver of the category. It will be a solid growth part of the company. What will happen in packs, bags, and luggage? Very pedagogical arrows here, right? Generally, we see in the market, there are a lot of stable growth categories. Luggage is growing around the world, day packs are growing around the world, tech packs and sport bags are growing around the world. But we are also exposed to some really dying categories like CD, DVD, wallets, and some others, and some very weak performing categories like camera bags. That's why there are some subsets. You see a slightly more ambitious green arrow down there. I can tell you that's of course because we're about to enter some of the biggest categories with some big ambitious plans. So yes, we do have big ambitious growth plans on the long term in packs, bags and luggage. We see the market for the juvenile products is a stable growing market with a few % every year. And here we have some very ambitious long-term targets as well to grow in the single biggest category, strollers. And that will surely drive our growth to be above and beyond what the expected market growth is. And then we have the most quizzical and conundrum of all, RV products. We have said, as long as we've been around, that it's cyclical, it's long cycles, it's not cyclical on a yearly basis. There has been some fantastic parts and some not so great parts in RV. At the moment, it's positive. It's a very strong trend at the moment, but we do put a question mark in terms of what will happen in the long run, and we do put a question mark on what will happen for us. The only thing that Philip and team has assured me, and I feel very confident because they've done it for 8 years in a row, is that whatever happens in the market, we will beat the market. So if it grows, we'll grow more. If it declines, we'll decline less. I feel very confident about that. But since we don't really know what will happen in the market, there has to be a little bit of a question mark to that subcategory. So with that, we go into what we are building on. And we are building mostly on one brand. We have to be honest about this. When I came into the company, the Thule brand was 30% of sales. It is now, last year, 71. I can tell you without telling too much that it will be even more % by the end of this year. So this is the brand. The Thule brand is what we're focusing on. And we invented a tagline. We had a tagline, actually, but I didn't understand it. I considered myself average intellectual, and I couldn't get it, and I was working in the company. So it was time to change it. We had first in sports utility transportation as the catchy tagline. We changed that to bring your life, because the tactical subset we had was we knew we would do more products to bringing your life with you, bringing your kids with you, bringing your sporting gear with you, bringing your daily working gear with you, right? With that mental game of changing the way we internally looked at the brand and in a very consistent way working on it, we have now, as I said, last year, 71% Thule, 86% sales of our own brands. So we do some OE business, and we're going to talk more about that. We do some very limited private label business in some very select cases, but we are a brand-driven company with the Thule brand as the key. When you build a brand, and this is no rocket science, there's loads of branding companies that have done the same, it's a journey of being genuine. I hate it when people talk about, we got this agency in and they did some great graphics for us. Then that company hasn't understood long-term building of brands. Because first you have to learn from your past, knowing what you're good at. Then you should focus on your strengths. In our case, it is product. We are fantastic at doing great new products, so we should really build the brand from that starting point. Then you should be yourself. If you think you are something else and you're tempted to try to be a Nike, be an Under Armour, and you're not, it's going to look fake. And if you say, they do something cool with the packaging, we will copy it, that's stupid. Be yourself, be inspired, but be yourself. Then, of course, a key any time when you want to build a brand is you need to protect it. So you need to protect it with IP, but more importantly, you need to guide. You need to tell everybody all the time, no, that's the wrong way you applied the logo. No, your homepage shouldn't look like that. Here's how it should look. No, you shouldn't dress like that at the fair. No. So there's a lot of policemen in the beginning, but you need to have the carrot as well. If it's only stick, it's boring, right? So you need to have the carrot. So instead of saying wrong picture, you show them a beautiful picture and say, next time I'll use that one. Brilliant. So that guide and lead by example. Brands are visual. Brands have to be visual. You know, nobody remembers. There is a few taglines around the world that people just do it, Nike, etc. So it's not the verbal part you remember, it's the visual. How, and we of course have tried to set some visual engagement by you seeing how we look with our products in the rooms today, right? It's the visual engagement you want to do. And then the risky thing, especially if you're a stock-listed company and you're a bit focused on your quarterly reports, you need to dare to play the long game. And the long game is, for example, at the moment, we're spending more money than ever. And over the next 12 months, we will peak in product development spend. I don't think we'll ever, in my time, be spending as much percentually on sales as we will over the next 12 months. And that everybody gets nervous. You shouldn't be. It's the money well invested for the future, right? So you need to dare to play that long game of saying, if we want to build this brand, we need to build it for the long run, 75 more years. Then we need to be consistent and protect ourselves. And we need to be result focused. If it's all gloss, right? Oh, I've got a great brand, but nobody's buying it. That's the definition of a great brand. People are prepared to pay more money to buy your product if it's your brand on it, right? So you need to be able to track it, and then you do the whole loop again. I think we have done a very good job of that. This is an enormously high focus for us going forward, especially as we broaden our assortment. Product is king. Product is king in this company. And it's because we are in a category of, if you don't have the best product, the next year you're not going to sell, because there's somebody else doing good products out there. And for us now, entering into some new product categories, I've got the question by many of you investors, oh, are you sure you want to enter into luggage? There's Samsonite, and there's Thule, and there's Remova. Or are you sure you want to do strollers? There's Bugaboo, and there's Stocke. Yeah, or we could say, yeah, let's stay where we are 50% of the market, that everybody knows we have the best products. But that would be limiting ourselves. And what we've been able to prove, fantastically, I would say, is we can develop great product also in new categories. I don't know how in you are into product design. I'm very happy. My daughter's just started at the Royal Institute of Technology as a Master of Science in Product Design, so I've geared something up in her mind. But if you're into that category, you know that this is the Oscars. The IF Gold Award is given to around 50 products every year, 50 only. So not the red IF, which is about 2,000, the gold, 50 products each year. Over the last few years, we won 3 of those Oscars in a category we never were. So the Thule Chariot Multisport, our own Thule Ride Along Mini, and the Thule Up Next have all won. So we get up there on the stage, which everybody would want to be. And we're winning tests and we're winning things. We are proving also in the new categories that we have what it takes when it comes to product is king. Then, of course, if we are to be successful in these categories that are more emotionally connected, we need to play the emotional game. It's not enough with a factual game of saying best in test, etc. We need to play. So if you have tracked us, and I know some of you do, and you say, oh, you've changed a little bit in how you look on your social media and how it looks at the fairs. It's natural because we're building on the emotional aspects. So our Facebook account, our Instagram account, the way we look at the fairs, the way we do special events. This was when we launched our new Thule Subterra luggage. We did it together with a headset brand. Yeah, and in Holland, and we invited all the key bloggers for travel on an ultra cool event at the coolest hotel where there was a drink mixologist, as they're called nowadays. They're not called bartenders anymore. And we do things like that around it because we need to be emotionally engaging, not just winning with great products. One way we have decided to do many years ago to be emotionally engaging was as engaging as I hope I am to you investors. Probably I'm not that engaging to the consumer out there. So it's not us internally only. We need to have some other people, some ambassadors. And like many brands, we therefore have some sponsored athletes and sponsored members. We call them the Thule Crew. I think what we have done, and if you ask them, that's the nice thing, they confirm that, differently from many others, we are building for the long term. It's not just about them being great athletes. Many of them are even at the ending of their career or have already ended their career. Some aren't even the best in their sports, but what we like about these people that we've handpicked is that they are truly engaged in the community, and they are spoken well about among their peers. And we then engage with them in having them involved in our product development, having them involved at our events. And so I'm going to show you a little bit here, but to give you an idea, here's the only man that has been 21 times on the top of Mount Everest, Apa Sherpa. Here's the guy sitting down there, Garrett McNamara, that has surfed the biggest wave ever surfed. There's the guy here, Pedro Oliva, who has done the biggest whitewater rafting waterfall, 42 meters in a kayak. So they are pretty extreme, but when you meet them, which we do a lot, this is the gathering we had this summer, 75-year birthday gathering in Malmö, you feel the energy with them. So I'm going to share you a little movie that we did about a year ago with one of the athletes we sponsored for several years, actually for more than 5 years, who became very famous last summer when she won an Olympic gold medal in mountain biking, but who also on this Sunday had a big thing in Swedish media when she admitted that she had a life crisis afterward. And she talked about her sponsors as part of her extended family. And we feel that that's nice to be, not just sponsoring them because they're athletes. So if we show that little movie.
Listen. Silence. There's so many things going on around me during the race season. And sometimes I feel like I'm losing myself a little bit.
Alright, so for your Instagram followers now. Great.
The ride with my brother reminds me of why I started riding. Pure happiness. It's such a nice contrast to come here and ride just for fun. This is the inspiration for me to keep on pushing my limits.
Give you an idea, Jenny Risveds here, she had a short clip on her Instagram account showing her out driving with the car and biking, and then she posted the question to her followers, do you like 4 wheels or 2 wheels more? 32,000 views within 1 week. So what you do get is that reality is if you work right with these people, you have an extended engagement. But one of the things we do mostly with also these crew members is they are part of our bigger sustainability approach. As a company of today, it's not only something you feel you have to do, you will actually need to want to do it, because then you truly can work with sustainability. So if you look at the company, the number one thing is, of course, we do products that inspire to a healthy and active lifestyle. In itself, that gives a good trigger to a sustainable approach. Then we work very diligently to make sure we have sustainable and reliable manufacturing, that we have climate smart logistics. And then, as you would expect of any big global company, we need to, of course, have responsible business policies and principles and practices. And then it's about how we socially engage. And especially here, we engage with our own staff and with the crew members in things that are close to our heart, which in our case means always kids. My daughters are too old now, so they're not kids anymore. But the reality is, if you can do these social engagement close to our facilities or out in the world, combining with activity and kids, there is nothing easier to get engaged about, and it fits our products as well. So what do we do really in focus? One of the big things we wanted to do, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be much more serious about the environment. So we put some ambitious goals into environmental targets. And I'm happy to say, as we reported in the annual report, that we're tracking to those ambitious goals. We set 2020 goal to reduce our carbon footprint with 65% versus the comparative year of 2014. So a 65% reduction. And by last year, we had already reached a 45% reduction. We also set the goal to have every single one of our factories to have 100% renewable energy used electricity in those plants. When we started, it was 12. Now we're over 75 and we're hitting to go towards the target of 100%. So it's a very conscientious, it's a very diligent work to make sure we do the environmental part right. Another part of environment is, of course, out there in the reality. So what we do, this is the Thule Crew member, Pedro Oliva. Pedro is also the Bear Grylls of Brazil. So now we can see who travels a lot and have to watch Discovery Channel and programs. Bear Grylls on TV, you know, the outdoors guys. Pedro Oliva has his own television show. He joined up with 2 big universities and Thule that sponsored a journey through the second biggest river in Brazil, where we did more than 300,000 measurements and looked at what the impact of climate was on the river. And then, since Pedro Oliva is who he is, in every little village there was a whitewater raft training for the kids. And it became a big project sponsored by us. So we have something we call Paths and Passion when we do the CSR activities, where we want to do something with people who already are engaged. Another one of our crew members, Apa Sherpa, has, after he stopped being a Sherpa, used his money and his time to create a foundation. That foundation's main purpose is to set up schools in his small little home village, Tambe, close to Mount Everest, for one reason. He says they should climb the mountain because they want to, not because they have to. Because, of course, the only job they can get, most of them without education, is being Sherpas. So he has started a school project. What we do is we sponsor all the school lunches for a 5-year period now. And we are giving the teachers salary, and we're providing, of course, they need school packs, so we have school packs for the kids as well. Those type of activities, and then engaging with our own staff in those, are the type of things we do. So I'm going to show you a third small movie here with one of the most exciting one of these activities that we did recently, where we combined Chris Van Dine, who's a very, very good downhill mountain biker. You've seen him, if you've ever seen GoPro or Red Bull movies with downhill mountain biking, Chris Van Dine has been in them. And we combined him with another part of our Thule Crew members, the world's coolest camera crew for action movies called Sherpas Cinema, a Canadian crew of photographers. And we followed him and on the project that he's been running in El Salvador, and where we as a company have sponsored those activities. So we'll show you that movie.
The Pathless Project began a year ago. It was an opportunity to enhance a grassroots effort on sustainability and social engagement, a challenge to show how local passion-driven efforts can engage and help people.
yo lo que pienso en mi futuro, en mi país, y me gustaría bastante que cambiáramos mucho, o sea, más trabajo, digamos, más oportunidades para muchos jóvenes que no necesitan el trabajo. Pienso yo que mi pasión es la bicicleta. Aparte de eso, de ahí mantengo mi familia. Estudio, gastos del hogar, ropa, zapatos, de ahí de bicicleta.
Quite a few kids, the first day we opened the pump track, they learned how to ride a bike the first time. And that's a big day in a young boy or girl's life. We crash together, they learn how to fix the bikes and fix the track. And there's a lot of bigger life lessons in there that, you know, are touched on. It takes an awful lot of work to build these things.
E incluso hay muchos muchachos de aquí en la zona, porque eso existe, ¿no? Tal vez algún día ponen en mente que lo que están haciendo está mal, o mejor que dediquen a algo sano, algo divertido, y lleguen a mantener a sus hijos, a su esposa. Muy bonito. Esa es mi idea, o sea, que un niño aprenda, analice bien, o sea, que se dedique, le ponga mente, digamos, a lo que es la bici, aprender excelentemente y día de mañana ser un profesional.
Bikes are a huge source of happiness and health and prosperity. And when you share something that helps improve their life and their kids' lives, then that's when the real magic happens in my mind. Hundreds and hundreds of people show up a few times a week to rally and ride for change, I think that speaks for itself.
So what we do and what we generally try to do with these efforts is they will be at BAM Film Festival and other places, because what you can see is all those bikes are of course taken actually from a concept that is released in the US. It's called Pedal for Change, where you bring old bikes that would have been thrown away in the US and we ship them into El Salvador, Honduras, and now Mexico. So similar projects is what we're working with. You will be able to read more about those in a little booklet you're going to get when you go home, on a magazine we call Pathless Passion that you're going to get in the break. But now to get a little bit into the second part, we're going to get you to go out again, get a leg stretch, go and look at all the cool new products, and then we'll talk about those product categories in 15 minutes when we're back. Thank you.